I myself, the producer of this podcast, is not eligible to diagnose anyone with a mental health disorder. This podcast is purely for artists discussing the mental health hurdles they struggle with on a daily basis. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Where Is My Mind, a podcast about artists and mental health. I'm your host, Christopher Orangeo. The topic of imposter syndrome has seemed to have been a hot topic in this podcast, maybe because, as artists, we feel that way very deeply. A lot of artists that feel this way, I'm very shocked that these specific artists feel that way because I've seen them thrive and do so many good things within the independent community of New Jersey. That's what imposter syndrome, I guess, is all about, thinking that you are not good enough or you don't belong when in fact you do. And today I have a special guest on. It's someone I've wanted to work with for a long time. I'll consider this a collaboration. This is Gina Marie Rodriguez. She's a New Jersey-based actress, screenwriter, and filmmaker, and she's influenced by her background in performance, production, and talent management. Her work centers on female-driven comedy with a healthy blend of humor, heart, and humility. She's also the founder of a nonprofit, Big Dreams and Silver Screens, and its annual events, the Westfield International Film Festival and the Big Dreams Youth Film Festival for New Jersey students in grade 1 through 12. I'm fortunate enough to have Gina here with me to talk about imposter syndrome and why she goes through it on a daily basis. Once again, she's a very talented actress. I've seen a lot of her work. I've been to her festivals that she's run, and they are one of the most well-run festivals I've ever been to. Without further ado, here's Gina Marie Rodriguez and myself talking about imposter syndrome and why it sucks. So I'm going to preface this. If you guys hear click-clacking, it is my puppy dog who has to feel the need to be under everyone's feet at all times. Right now, she is next to our guest today, Gina Rodriguez. Gina, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
No problem. I think you were one of the first people to respond to my social media post about it. You've done 2 films about therapy. Mm-hmm. I know I open every episode with have you gone to therapy? But even beyond that, you're making films, and yeah, they're in the genre of comedy, but you're still talking about mental health. So before we dive into our episode topic today, have you gone to therapy? Are you currently in therapy? And what is your stance about on therapy?
My stance on therapy is everyone should be in therapy. I have definitely gone to therapy. I'm not currently in therapy, though I wish I were.
So I'm going to ask you this, I've asked, how have you gone through COVID and not have been in therapy? I started therapy in September of 2020.
Oh, that was your first ever time?
Oh, I went when I was younger, but we went as a family because we were having a lot of, just family shit. But me seeking it for myself, I never went because I never thought I needed it,
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people started during COVID times. For me, I think a lot of it was that I had, previous experience in therapy that I was just kind of thinking back on what did my therapist say then? I'm just going to hang on to that because I can't afford it right now.
That's a thing. That's a thing too, really quickly. I told the company I'm with, to pay this much a month for it, I personally can't do it. Mm-hmm. And they are now well, we will cut your prices and we'll cut the price in half. We want to help you. And I'm oh wow. If they're legit about helping me, then I got to take this seriously. Because they're willing to just, the cost per month would be $120, and they pretty much cut it in half to make it $60. And I'm oh, and I go once a week, and it's
that's
great. Yeah, and I think that makes it seem like that they're all just about grabbing and taking your money.
Yeah,
I think this specific company really wants to help out, and it's clear.
That's great.
Yeah.
I probably should be looking into more therapists. I'm not even joking. I know. I don't mean to laugh,
but it's just your delivery. It's I should be looking into it.
Well, I am hilarious. But
that is fact.
I think that genuinely everybody should be in therapy at one point or another in their life, if only to understand themselves better, to understand the people in their lives better. You don't necessarily have to be in therapy just when everything is going to hell.
Yeah.
Life is hard, and it's good to have help from people other than your friends.
and I do like what you did in Cruel and Unusual Therapy too. Do you want to talk about both films? Because it has to deal with therapy.
I mean, I can.
Yeah,
sure.
go ahead. Yeah,
I
this is to like get to know you, and then we're going to talk about serious shit. But yeah, like I want people to know, like you're a writer, actress, director, producer. You run a festival. It probably keeps going on and on. But I
do everything but cook.
Yeah.
I don't cook.
Well, that's what is it? What's that delivery service? Like fresh
Uber
Eats or yeah. DoorDash, yeah, that's what that's for.
This is not sponsored by DoorDash.
No, this is not sponsored yet. Unless if DoorDash, you do want to sponsor us, we love you. But no, the first film I saw of yours was Frame of Reference.
Oh yeah,
and it was a musical. Sort of, well, not a musical.
It had
I'm sorry.
Musical elements to it.
Okay, I'm gonna call it. I'll call it because it's like you don't ever see that on a.
There was a dance
independent
sequence.
level, yes, and it seemed, and you were like, you shot it a scene or two like very noirish, yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's not a straight up musical, but it was great. And then the last thing I saw, then I saw Cruel and Unusual Therapy. So like, where'd you get the concept? You could tell the audience like what the films, like what your sequel and your 2 short films are about.
Your therapist, because they are trained, because they're the person in the chair across from you, they do have more power, and their words carry a weight that maybe your friends' words don't.
Mm-hmm.
And my first film in regards to therapy, Cruel and Unusual Therapy, was because I was in therapy with someone who, he was very good looking.
Yeah.
Like there's no getting around it. I told him that multiple times.
Off camera, on camera. Yeah, it was well known.
Both places. I told him, to be fair, I was going to make a movie about it, and he didn't believe me. And then I sent him the poster when it was done, and he went, "Oh my God, I'm both horrified and flattered."
Yeah.
But it started because I was having so much trouble in those sessions with him. And this gives away the fact that I am my character right now. But
wait, so was he really is he really a therapist, or is he in that?
He wasn't in the film, but yeah, it's definitely based on a real therapist.
Oh, so your real therapist you're telling was like he was really attractive, and you said it to him.
Oh, yep.
Okay. I thought okay, I thought you were talking about the actor.
No, it adds more weight to it now.
Oh, definitely.
This was definitely based on, it was loosely based on a true story.
One, big props for you kind of just being and be like, you're very, because.
I screamed it at him a lot. I was like, this is inappropriate. How dare you be so good looking?
That's great though. And he's probably like, what? And he either he was playing coy or being very professional.
What it was, and this is cheat codes, guys. Yeah. I went to, what do you call it? Like a therapy school. It was like a center where they had their graduate students practicing, basically giving counseling. So this is someone who didn't yet have his license.
Okay.
And he, I made him work for that degree,
though. I was going to say, please tell me you were his first client.
I'm sure he had more. I'm sure he had more for sure.
But none that hit on him. So free, or maybe
we don't know. We don't know. And I don't mean any of this to be disparaging to him.
Course.
I'm not saying his name, but when I say loosely inspired, I mean very loosely. Please don't go and watch these movies and think, "Oh yeah, she did all that."
Yeah, we are sitting here and we're joking just because I've seen it, and I just thought I didn't know it was based on a situation. Like the truth of the matter is that yes, you were attracted to your therapist, and that's what happened in the film. But in the film, there's a lot of fantasy.
Yes.
And let's just leave it at that.
The general basis for the film is a woman who is in therapy and has her own issues that she's trying to delve through, is bothered by the fact that her therapist is too attractive and she doesn't know how to get past that.
It's hilarious because you see it a little bit in like The Sopranos, right? But it's just Tony being a fucking dog, right? Yeah. Tony just wanting to like fuck anything that walked, essentially. This is a little different where you're like...
I would hope.
Your character... very much different. I'm just saying your character... But I'm comparing the two because it's like the only thing I've seen where someone is attracted to their therapist. There's a lot of shows I've watched where characters are in therapy and there's no really attraction.
Well, that's part of why
there.
I wanted to do this too, because erotic transference is a real thing, but so is transference in general. It doesn't necessarily always have to be erotic. A lot of people end up in therapy and you're talking to your therapist for 2+ years and you want to be friends with this person.
Yeah.
But you can't. There's a line that you have to draw. And then in some cases, people fall in love with their therapist, you know, and that there are varying degrees of transference. And I think that people should be aware of that before they go into therapy. Otherwise, you can feel more crazy when it happens.
No, that makes sense. I requested to talk to a woman as my therapist because I think it's easier for me to talk to women than it is to guys. And I don't know if that probably stems from, you know, for a while, it was just my sister, my mom, and I until my mom remarried. And like my mom, I'm very, very close with my mother, and you know, with that certain things. And I mention on every podcast, and you know, I try not to like, I'm not trying to be a dead horse, but like, you know, my stepdad had a stroke in September, and like my sister's in Florida, and my sister's been very, very helpful. But on Christmas, like we had Christmas night over there, or Christmas Day, at my mom's house, and like my wife went to sleep and so did my stepdad, and my mom and I were just sitting there kind of just like sitting there like talking about like I've told her about how everything I felt since September since he had the stroke, and my mom felt the same exact way. So there was that comfort level there. I don't know how comfortable I would feel telling like, well, one, my dad that, talking about my stepdad, or like, you know, my buddy Steve, like, you know, him and I are very open and transparent about a lot of stuff, but I don't think I would have let that guard down of me just like literally crying on and off for an hour, other than like I could see doing that with my wife or you know, like I said, my mom. So I did request to have that because I felt like at the time I would have been a lot more open to then.
I think that self-awareness is really important though too.
Yeah. I just don't think I wouldn't have been comfortable crying in front of, I don't feel comfortable ever crying in front of a man. I just don't. And that's a problem in itself where like, yeah, you know, men don't feel comfortable doing like showing that emotion in front of other men,
It's
you know,
built into our society.
Yes.
You're not
Yes.
alone
Very.
there.
No, I know I'm not. And then I don't ever know if I'm, you know, it might change if, you know, I end up having a son and, you know, he sees that if I'm crying and it's okay to do that. But still, like, I have some of my best friends I've known since 7. I will not like, yeah, man, I'm good. Like, just give me a minute and or I won't share my thoughts and feelings. But you bring my wife, my, you know, cousin, you know, all these women in my life, I could just be like, you know, it's that comfort level.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, society kind of preaches that women are meant to be nurturing and men are meant to be stoic, and that's
it could be
part of the
flipped.
problem.
It could be flipped. You know, I know a lot of women who are stoic and are very,
yeah.
But you know, you see a lot of I always go back to this former NFL player. His name's Brandon Marshall, and he was really one of the first athletes I've ever heard talk about mental health. Now you hear, you know, NBA players like Kevin Love, DeMar DeRozan, they've opened up about how they are going through depression. I think that's a big step in my opinion.
It's huge.
But Brandon Marshall said, I got a son and a daughter. When she falls and she cries, I go there and I coddle her. When my son falls, I used to be like, get up, you're not a woman. Stop crying. And he's like, I noticed how I used to talk to him. He's like, so why can't I coddle them both? And I was like, did he really just say that on a big platform? You know, like, and this was maybe 10, 12 years ago he said that. And I was in my early 20s. So it was like, it's something I never heard of. And now it's just so like, you hear so many people talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's something where like, you know, where like you hear a topic and it's like, okay, this is kind of getting old. I don't want to hear about it. I've never felt once that like when someone talks about mental health, I'm like, oh, God, just shut the fuck up already about it. Like, it's like hearing about like, just hear about everyone bitching about like, you know, politics or this or a movie or a show. It's just like, shut up. Like, this is not it for Facebook. But when you hear like anyone on our level of independent artists or big artists talk about, you know, mental health, I stop and listen.
Absolutely. I do too. And I think it's so important. You were talking about people with big platforms, specifically speaking about mental health. And that has made such great strides, I think, for mental health awareness
Does
in the
that
past few
comfort
years.
you?
When people on a grander scale speak about it?
Yeah, or anyone in general. Like if your friends talk about it,
Absolutely.
yeah, but grander scale, like when you see someone talk about that, like what, if you don't mind, like what are some of the emotions you're going through when you hear someone talk about that?
I mean, emotions. Let's see. I feel like
Or thoughts, let's say.
yeah,
Yeah.
when I hear somebody talking about it, it's like, oh, thank God, because you feel alone a lot of the time in your thoughts, even though from a rational standpoint, that you're not alone in the world. You're not the only person having these thoughts. But when you're in that dark place, it doesn't feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
So when all of a sudden on my social media or on TV, it pops up that somebody is talking about it and that they feel the same way I feel, there's a momentary weight lifted. And you think, oh, thank God, it's not just me.
I always think about certain just people in general have said, like, Kid Cudi has saved my life. Like Pete Davidson, I know he's going through a lot right now, but in general, he said, like, Kid Cudi saved my life. Like that's a big thing. Like seeing that, hearing that. I know. Kanye West is his own beast, and like kind of what he's doing now on social media is a little unforgivable. It's not a little, it is unforgivable. Like he's just kind of putting like Kim, I don't know if you're following. He's just putting like Kim Kardashian on blast, but I really wish he came out and said like, I just wish people would take that he does have a serious problem, and it's really ever since his mom passed. Mm-hmm. But like you have a Kid Cudi who is very open about how he is suicidal, he is that, but like his music has brought people together. You think about like, Chester Bennington of Linkin Park, I grew up on them, and he would say like, I felt this way, I felt that way. It's like, man, like it's just really nice to know that. And you kind of hope, and I'm hoping that there's multiple things I want to do with this podcast. I want to give the safe space for artists like yourself and others to come on and just kind of talk about stuff if they want to. I just hope an artist who's maybe 24, I'm 34, someone who's 10 years younger than me, who's like, I don't like, do I stick with it? They feel this way too. Like there just needs to be more relatable content out there, because there are times where I feel like, and I know I'm not, like you said, but I do feel like I am the only one going through this right now. So it's nice for you to be like, no, you know what, Chris? So am I. I'm like, okay, she runs a festival. She does it. Like, so she's going through it too. But let's, on a lighter scale, let's go back to your film. So you based the Cruel and Unusual Therapy off of, loosely base it off of what you were going through. Mm-hmm. And it was just your timing, I don't want to compare you to anyone because you're your own thing, but you're like timing and the way you have a very Tina Fey quality about you. Yay! With like, I'm just saying like the timing and the delivery, like the Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, like
two of my favorites.
Just like the timing of like, and the very, like, I don't know if you watch it, but like your chemistry with everyone, like you just have a very Seinfeld-esque like banter back and forth, and that's what I got from watching both of them. And I'm going to be honest with you, and I don't want you to hate me, I think Cruel and Unusual Therapy 2 blows the first one out of the water.
I agree.
Okay, all right, because you have more just like I'll call it a montage of you going through every therapist, and you're kind of looking for a real ugly one, like an ugly one, which is, or just someone that you're not going to be like, and then you came across the gentleman with the dreads, and you're like, good God, you said something along like, good God, I can't do this, or something like that. And it was just really funny because I feel like you're saying everything. You're just saying what people think probably sometimes when they go to therapy, or when they see, no, really, like when they see like I feel like what's the character's name? I forgot. I'm sorry.
Are we talking about the last one or?
Oh no, just your character.
Oh,
my
character is Leanne.
Leanne. Okay, Leanne. All right. Yeah. Sorry. I see Gina, but I know it's not Gina.
I don't know.
But I just see that you're very quiet. Like when I meet you in person, you're very just quiet to yourself. You can talk, you can converse and all that. But when I watch that, I'm like, that's Gina's fucking like alter ego, and I think you did a great job with that.
Oh, thank you.
So what went into the process of the second one? Because I know you filmed it during COVID. So what were some challenges, and what made you want to do a second one?
I really at first was pushing back on a second one and this is very much imposter syndrome because I released the first one and it seemed to be doing well. People really liked it. And even in my tone, you can tell that I don't believe that all
Of
the
course,
time.
yeah.
I feel like in my mind, when people give me a compliment, they're just saying that, to be nice because they want to make me smile, which is lovely. Like you should be a person who wants to make others smile, but I have a hard time trusting the compliment.
So like, I know we're sidetracking, my apologies.
Okay.
When I message you saying I like the film, do you even feel that way too from like your peers?
Oh yeah, 1000%. I trust no one. And that's
Me
how
too.
terrible is
no,
that?
No,
but
me too. But
I tend to believe only the negative stuff. And I know that's a phenomenon, and I can't remember the name right now, but where you just latch onto the one negative thing that someone has said. You can have 20,000 compliments, but one bad one, and that's what sticks with you. And that's how I feel about most of my work.
Okay.
Like I can sit in an audience with people and watch them laugh at my movie that is on screen and still think, wow, they're really just trying to be so nice right now. They're like, what nice people, trying to make me feel good about this.
I had severe, I have imposter syndrome at most festivals. So like when I was at Westfield, my film was playing on it was my film and then a feature. And I didn't think about it at the time, but my mom's like, you're fucking like closing out the festival. I'm like, yeah, but it's just how it goes, like I just, I do what you do. I pushed it to the side. And then when you were doing the awards and then I saw like, little did you know up on the screen and I'm like, wait, what? We won something? Like that's where it gets into. Cause it was like, wow, they really, and I don't know how you do your process and like how many people vote. And
I am not a judge. I will say that.
Okay,
now. We
all
do
right.
have
I think
judges.
you said that. I
always do because I'm the one up there. I'm like, don't yell.
Yeah,
at me.
yeah. And I think I think you said I am not the one who judges. We have our own panel of judges, and I thought that was really, and it was nice. And then like after you kind of like. I don't know if we won like best concept or best film, and I brought the crew and cast up, and then like the award show died down, and a lot of people came up to me and was like, "That's a really good film." It was kind of like, aren't they like? Are you sure? Like, there's that doubt that creeps into your mind, right? And you're saying, and it's I love that you're saying that, but I also don't love that you're saying that because you shouldn't think that way. But it's nice to know that like even someone like you or like another artist that I really respect on a very independent level is going through that. So that's another thing where, like I said earlier, you're not like, we're not alone in this. So if we ever like, this is shit, I'll know I can like send you a script, send you a project. Now, moving forward, if I'll bug you about it, like, hey, can you kind of like give me your honest opinion? Because I trust it a lot more, especially after this podcast. So, all right. So before Cool and Unusual Therapy 2 started, you were having these doubts. So then what got you over the doubts?
COVID, it was a long time without being able to create anything.
Did you write really during COVID?
People.
Like anything or
not much,
no?
Not enough really. I wrote this and by this I mean Cruel and Unusual Therapy too, but I left it for a long time because I got I'm in multiple writers groups, and which I think is important as a writer to have other people to bounce your ideas off of.
Definitely.
But I got some really unfortunate notes on this initial draft of the script, and
from someone you respect, or just or the group you're talking about.
I don't know that well, actually.
Okay.
So I'll say that, but it goes back to what I said earlier about you can accept a ton of compliments, and then that one bad note is what's going to stick with you.
Yeah.
And even though in the moment I knew that these notes weren't constructive, they really weren't constructive. They were hurtful, really. I basically listened to someone call me a whore for 10 minutes. And I was like, okay, this is
Wait, was this over Zoom, right? I'm assuming, or did they call you?
No, it was a Zoom call. It was like a whole writers group.
Yeah.
And then one person, which unfortunately was the one to end the session of notes. So I got some really great constructive feedback from some other people. And I was taking all the notes. I was like, this is great. And then it ended on notes that, I don't even like to call them notes now because it was really rooted in personal opinion and had nothing to do with how to strengthen a story and how to strengthen a character.
And that kind of sucks, especially like that guy's in a writer's group, or that person, I don't know if it's a guy or girl, but that person's in a writer's group and they're the ones saying like,
And that's why
these are other
more.
screenwriters. Yeah, these are other screenwriters who are supposed to give you screenwriters' notes, not general consensus like people who are haters on Twitter notes. Like that sounds like someone was just being a fucking troll.
There's a difference between criticism and constructive criticism.
Yes.
And I won't say that they were trying to be a troll necessarily. I think they genuinely thought that these were constructive notes, but I mean, I was sitting there in shock because I was waiting for someone else to intervene and say, maybe we need to redirect or
no one did.
No. I think everyone was in shock maybe because it was just such an awkward
It came out of left field, I'm sure, right?
Yeah. It really, because they had seen my first film and, there are implied sexual situations, right? This is not a porn. Nothing was really happening, but everything is implied. And it's definitely, if I had to give it a rating, I'd say at minimum a PG-13.
Yes.
Right? So they kind of took that and then said, it's great that you're sexually liberated and everything, but I don't think this is the message you want to send. And I just kept thinking,
who said that, a 90-year-old?
Right?
I'm sorry. That sounds like a comment from a grandparent.
And what's hilarious is that I am a very prude human being. Like, are you? So prude. Oh my God.
No.
So,
you can't prove that. You cannot. You cannot convince me. Okay, but I'm just saying. I saw the first Cruel, and there's no way a prude person would be that comfortable.
Who said I was comfortable?
That is true. Okay. You're right. Yeah. I don't know shit if you were comfortable or not. But
the behind the scenes would be probably
very
funnier than the actual piece.
Oh my God, help me.
Yeah. That's pretty much how it was. And in the first one, I know that the star of the first one was Jennings Brower, and he's amazing.
He was. How was he? Uncomfortable too?
Oh, he was totally comfortable.
That's interesting
because I don't know what to do right now. But that ties into my insecurities again. In Imposter Syndrome, I'm like, well, you're a model and a real actor, and you get paid to do that. Well, because I think by definition, that's the way I think of it. Like, you're a professional actor when you get paid. I don't get paid to act.
But neither do I. But that doesn't mean we're not real actors. Have you taken acting classes?
In college.
Okay.
I was a theater major in college.
I've only started taking them, and they're somewhere on virtual. So
yeah.
But I don't know a lot of people. I don't think you need to be a thespian to be a real actor.
And that ties back to the whole thing that we're talking about. Imposter syndrome is crazy, but I felt that so strongly when we were there. But I was also trying to direct and act, and there's that inherent power dynamic again when you're the director speaking to another actor versus actor to actor. And I always felt like, oh God, am I being a good director now? Am I being inappropriate? Like, I'm trying to give
you're just in your head
space.
with it. Yeah,
I was very in my head. And I hope that didn't come across in the film, but I've talked myself into a circle.
No, you're good. You're good. No, so we were talking about Cruel and Unusual Therapy 2, how you were going through this writers group and someone who you said watched the first movie. So there's context there.
Yes.
And then you were like, well, you got some notes, but then I just, just trying to get to like why, like how, I guess, how you made the sequel, because I'm saying like the sequel, I'm not saying it's leaps and bounds better than the first one. It's just like you could tell, like
it's a little heavier. Like
there's a lot more going on.
Yeah,
like you have a bigger cast. You have a lot more going on. What's the runtime? It's like 13, 14 minutes, maybe.
No, it's 12.
12.
Minutes,
okay.
Yeah.
So you have 11, a lot going on in 11 minutes. Like, and then I'm assuming you're setting it up for a third one because just the way it ends, in my opinion.
If anybody here would like to give me money. Sure.
yeah. Fund that film.
I would rather, but part of me was thinking like, I would love to create a pilot for this and actually
pitch it.
Yeah.
I think you should.
Thank you.
Or maybe, use what you have already for the two, and then that's your pilot in the sense, and maybe do some other pickup shots or anything like that. But
if this hadn't been done in COVID, I would have loved to have done that. But because I was limited by pandemic restrictions, and most of it was virtual, I didn't do what I could have done.
Would you have gone to different therapists like offices instead of doing it virtually?
Theory, sure, I would have done that. I also would have loved to have more of Leanne's life outside of therapy, so you could see what a real mess she is.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't feasible, especially on a really low budget.
Of course, yeah.
We were trying to keep it to one location. And that's what happened. So back to what I was saying with after I got those notes, I put the script away for like a year and I just didn't touch it because even though I knew in that moment, like these are not real notes and you should not take them to heart. Of course I did, and I didn't touch it for a long time. And then, like we were still in a pandemic a year later.
Yeah.
Like, oh God, I have to do something. So let me revisit this and just put myself out there, approach actors and see if anybody wants to work with me, and even approaching actors is so uncomfortable for me because I'm like, oh, these people are so much better than I am. Why are they going to want to work with me? My stuff is crap. And I hate that I think this way, but I know that I'm not alone in it. But that was my thought process going through this. And it was just do it anyway. Just ask. If they don't want to work with you, they won't.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll say it in a nicer way, than say, I just don't flat out want to work with you. But going back to what you just said, I've kind of said it on here and it's a thing I don't like saying out loud, but I think, people need to know where I come from. I'm a very negative person, and I hate that I am. I can't even look you in the eye when I say it because it is very embarrassing. Because it's I think I live in just being a pessimistic person because I think everything you said, asking you to be an AD on When a Blind Man Cries, I had to preface hey, here's a script. I hope you find it funny. If you don't and you don't want to be a part of it, I shouldn't have
See, and when you asked me to be an AD, I was like, oh my God, I can't be an AD. I don't know what I'm doing. Why is he?
Well, it's because I've seen you direct stuff, and and the AD I usually work with is Devin, who's acting in this, and I was like, who could easily replace him? And I thought I'm not saying ADs are directors, but I'm looking at it as, okay, you've directed, I've seen you direct 3 or 4 of your projects that you've directed. So I think if I'm going to be able to go and work with the actors, you're going to be able to kind of step back and kind of be in charge of crew, and you're going to see stuff differently. And I try to build an environment where we do a take and then you will feel comfortable enough to be like, why don't we try it this way? That's what I'm looking for when I work with people. Right. But that's what I'm saying. It's just very pessimistic. I wrote that short with Steve. I wrote another one. I wrote 2 at the beginning of COVID. I was going through a lot of health issues. So I was just stuck on the couch. I was I'm just going to write. And then I was like, oh yeah, this pandemic, it's not going to last too long. Fucking foolish. Shame on us. Yeah. And then I'm going to start making these projects. But this podcast is the first project of mine I got to start since COVID. And I'm happy about that. But at the same time, 2 years of not being able to create, I'm talking about of my own projects, really has fucked me up and has made me feel an imposter and in my own skin, so to speak. So I definitely get where you're coming from. You're just I just got to make it. And I think you did it in such a brilliant way that we're going to look back in 10, 15 years and what was it like having to live, if we tell any of our, the youth or the kids or, anything like that, what was it really like to, live through a pandemic? Well, your film could be in the compile of a lot of stuff of an example of of what it really was like.
Yeah.
I think the movie Don't Look Up, I know a lot of people didn't like it, but that's a good, you want to talk about how the world was and how it was during these crazy fucking times. Don't Look Up really is super political, but it's what the world was at this time, and and what we're living.
That's the beauty of film in general, and art.
Yeah.
We're trying to capture a feeling. Oftentimes it's, this is how we all felt at this point in time.
Yeah.
It was 2020 began this descent into a pandemic, a worldwide pandemic that no one understood because none of us were alive for the last one.
And I moved in here in January, the day Kobe Bryant passed. I moved into this apartment and living with now my wife for the first time. And then a month and a half later, you are now stuck inside. So you're stuck inside trying to move in with, trying to get familiarity of living with someone who's not really your family, like a girlfriend, and you kind of like
It's a lot.
it's a lot to deal with. And then like I was going through health issues, like she got COVID early on, like
Gosh.
it was just a lot, then we were like, hey, we want it more challenging, let's get a puppy. But honestly, getting the puppy for me has been the best part, because I'm able to go outside, walk. She just brings, you have 2 dogs, I'm sure they just bring, I saw, I think on your Instagram, them in snow. Like her in snow is like, it's every time she sees it is the first time she's ever seen it seems like. So there's, that sort of
Dogs
joy.
are great.
They are amazing. And I think, with you doing the film, there has to be a sense of like, obviously you feel accomplished. You have to feel accomplished. You have to feel good about you doing a film during the pandemic, because it's challenging. I've had to push back a film of mine of like 2 or 3 times, because it seems like every time we're filming, like shit's spiking up again. Right. So, I think there has to be that sense of comfort, but I do see where you could be like, I'm working with a bigger cast this time. Like there's no way they're not going to think I'm X, Y, and Z, I'm a fraud,
Yeah.
Why do you think, in your own like words, why do you think artists fall under imposter syndrome more than, let's say, a non-artist?
With artists, I think that because we have to be more in touch with our feelings for our job, it's implied that we're going to delve into these dark places, because that's what creates art.
Yeah.
And who was it? I think it was Carrie Fisher who said, take your broken heart and turn it into art.
Yeah.
I think that's everything that we do. And then we're taking all of that, putting it out for the world to see, and expecting judgment. Like judgment is part of the job, and that's terrifying. So of course we're going to feel that judgment on ourselves, and our own internal monologue is very judgmental, and no one is like born knowing how to turn that off. It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
We all have to learn how to turn off the negative thoughts, and it's evolving. I still don't know how to do it. As much as I've been in therapy and I've had a bunch of different therapists, there's no one answer like, oh yeah, it's just a switch. Just flip it.
Yeah, no, it's not. And I do use this example here and there where like people who aren't artists, and I don't want to keep using like accountants or anything, but like, how are they,
those dang accountants.
what's like, I wonder how they, I think everyone does suffer from imposter syndrome, whether it's like, I'm not good enough for this job or this corner office with this view. So I think everyone gets it, but you make a good point. And a buddy of mine who was on the podcast earlier, Felix, he made a good point where like artists of any kind, like they're creating strictly for people to judge. You just said that. So, we're making art for, we're both in the film world. So like my buddy Felix is a digital designer. So like he says he makes it, he puts it out, he doesn't touch it. Like it's not for me anymore.
Yeah.
I think film to me is a little different. I think a part of me is making a film for myself, and maybe it's more than half, but then I'm also making it to show people like, like this story is in my head. Like this is how I'm feeling currently. And when you do that, and personally, and maybe I might sound like a psycho saying this, the more like, if I put a film out and you message me and you say, I really liked it, or if you were like, I like this, I like that, why'd you go this way? Like if you were to dive into more of it, I appreciate that. But if I post something and it gets 5 likes, all the non-likes to me is telling me that you didn't like it. Like that's what I'm just saying. Like that's just, and I don't need a like from my mom and my aunt, those because I know that they're always going to support me no matter what, or maybe not. But the likes from certain artists are really good. But like the non-likes, I think, and I know I'm speaking this is a very timely conversation because we're living in the age of social media, but like, so I wonder, I guess the box office numbers in the 70s and 80s for bigger, grander scale films, that was the telltale sign of like who likes your shit and who doesn't. So,
yeah, it's it's hard no matter what your art is. I've found that as an actor, especially, your face is up there, right? So you can't hide from it at any point.
Unless
Once
if you're
they've
like
seen
massive makeup to where you're
sure,
unrecognizable.
If you're Doug Jones,
Yeah.
you can hide.
Or Lily
By the way,
James
I love Doug Jones.
Yeah, oh, he's great. Or Lily James and now Pam and Tommy.
Yeah,
she's extremely unrecognizable.
Those makeup artists did their job
phenomenal.
for sure.
But you're saying you say who Doug Jones is to the normal who the fuck's who's Doug? No, Hocus Pocus, like what the fuck,
He's the most
Labyrinth.
famous actor you've never seen.
Exactly.
And but I bring that up because I try not to do this anymore, but I used to physically slump down in my seat in the middle of a theater. Like if my movie was on and other people are in the room with me, I'm going to slink down as far as possible, which I then realized actually drew more attention to myself.
Yeah, because
so
they're probably like, not for nothing, and I don't want to sound weird. Like if your film's playing, I want to see if you're there, and like I want to see like how you're presenting yourself, because sometimes I'm like that too. I'm like,
yeah, it's
like that was my first film, just sitting there biting now I just sit there and I'm just ultra focused. I'm not looking, and I'm more ultra focused, and I'm listening for like if there's reactions and laughs.
Right, I'm watching the crowd. I'm not watching myself.
Okay, yeah. So you're standing in the back.
Well, even if I'm sitting, because sometimes I do have to like sit with my crew and with other people who are there. But I try not to make it obvious. Like I'm not twirling my head all the way around like an owl trying to figure out who's behind me and what they're doing.
Yeah, but you're looking around. You're scanning the room ahead of you.
Trying to listen in, see if there's any comments that are happening.
Especially with the last film I did, like with Little Did You Know, at your festival. I was next to my wife, the cat, one of Sarah Kozowski and her husband were there just because Fish Out of Water wasn't there. So like people were there just watching it, like supporting it, like Devana Apravado, like, and Katie, the actress, like they were all here. So like we were like took up 2 rows, which like made me feel fucking like really good. But I was just like, bam. And then like the reactions of like some of the one-liners, and then being like, she's not your dad. I'm like, that's the shit that gets me, but I'm not being like, this is all, and then obviously when the credits are rolling and everything like that, the amount of claps is what gets you too. So now you're saying you used to slump and do that. What do you do now when you?
Well,
what's your plan to do it at Hang On to Your Shorts Film Festival? Is your plan to slump and hide in the corner?
I'm going to try really hard not to, unless I need to distract from something else that's happening.
Of course.
She fainted. Oh my God. I'll try not to do that though.
Yeah, if you faint, it takes away from everyone enjoying your film.
Exactly. No, I did that when I was just starting out and I was younger. I was probably like early 20s, so much older now. But early 20s, I used to physically, one time I actually ended up on the floor. I mean, I was just out of my seat on the floor, and it's really mortifying to think back on. And I did this in a room full of students. They were my students. And I'm like, this is not a good example that you're setting, Gina.
I was going to say, you were in a classroom?
It wasn't a classroom so much. It was like a summer program.
Were you with like a friend who was trying to get your ass up from the floor, or?
I was actually with my boss, and he was like, "What are you doing?"
Oh God! He's like, just leave me be.
Well, because I didn't really have any intentions of sharing this with the students that I saw every day. But my boss had wanted to share it, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so grateful that you're proud of me and you love this, but I feel so awkward," and I just wasn't mentally prepared for it. Like I should have done some work to mentally prep for having to share this with people and be in the same room as them, because that was long before I'd done festivals and proper screenings. So I really had made it as the film that I'm talking about was called Are They All This Crazy, ironically, and it was. And
they look at you and they're like, "Yep,
yep." It was about a girl who. God, I don't even know if I have this.
Was it a comedy
anywhere? It was supposed to be. I mean, I don't know if people would look at it that way now, but it was my senior thesis.
Okay.
So I was a student,
and
I was a theater major, but my advisor was actually very kind and said, "I see the direction you're headed, and you're allowed to do a film if you want." So that was really nice of him to let me switch focus, because you're supposed to do. Whatever your focus is, like you're supposed to do a play, right? Whether you're a director or an actor, whatever it is. But I didn't do that. And I said, I wrote this script. I want to be in it and I want to direct it. And then at the time, actually, my advisor had gone on sabbatical, so someone else stepped in who didn't know me. And she had said, you can't do all of those things. You can pick two. I said, okay, I'll pick writer and actor. And then I had to
Find a
quote,
director.
hire, but like I wasn't paying.
Yeah,
So I had to find a director who, let's say it wasn't the same vision that I would have had, but I also at the time had zero experience, had no idea how to work a camera. Like I wouldn't have known what to tell him to do anyway. So he just kind of took it in a direction.
Did his own thing, yeah.
And it wasn't, at the time, it was good. You know, looking back, it's one of those things where, oh God, what was I doing?
I wish I had a copy of my senior thesis film.
I do. I probably have it privately listed on YouTube.
Yeah.
It was definitely something. But it was, again, I tend to write about things that I know.
Mm-hmm.
So it was about a girl who was an actor and a waitress, and she just practiced her different characters while waiting tables. Until she got caught in the lie one time when a cute guy asked her out, and she had to stay in character on the date.
Can we remake that?
Oh, I mean, remake it? Maybe.
I'll help with whatever you need. That sounds really funny.
I would do that because it itself was, I was young and it wasn't great.
And what's the name? What was the name of it again?
It was called Are They All This Crazy?
But that makes sense now.
It was a play on Are All Actors This Crazy or Are All Women This Crazy?
No, but I was thinking of the characters you're picking are, like... That's maybe your question. Like that's you asking, are all these characters nuts? Like that's how I now interpret it. Now the name makes more sense with.
I mean, in this new rewrite that we're working on together, we might want to approach it from that angle. It wasn't meant to be that at the time.
I just think it's that's a really, you're doing, the films you do are like rom-com. But like the romantic comedies you're doing are very. Are fun. Like I'm trying to do a web series rom-com about
I love rom-coms.
about rom-com but mixed with some seriousness.
Those are the best kind.
I'm right now I want to call it 7 Valentines, and it's a couple's first 7 Valentines that they've been together with, but their first Valentines was when they were 18, and then they don't meet each other again until they're like 28, 30.
Oh wow.
And then it goes through like their journey, like I know I'm going through right now a marriage and about to have a kid. So of course I'm going to add that in, but I want to do it a little differently. It was funny when when my wife told me 2 days after my birthday that she was pregnant.
Happy birthday.
She's like, happy birthday. She's like, don't you be your character from Little Did She Know. Don't fucking run away and go run and get drunk. I was like, I'm here. I'm not, I'm very much here. I am not the character, and everyone asked. I remember you had Jade Cintron doing the red carpet at yours. Yeah. And she watched it, I believe, or I pitched it to her. She's like, "Are you telling us something that you don't know?" I was like, "I don't have kids. My girlfriend's not pregnant. It's not like this is not what this is not what I did." But going, trying to backtrack a little bit. I think artists. Do you wear your emotions on your sleeve? Do you think?
Yes, and on my face. I mean, if you watch my expressions, you know what's going on.
Okay,
there's no way I can hide it.
Yeah, I think that's why artists fall under imposter syndrome. I shouldn't quote it because it is a real fucking thing, but I think they fall under that because they are so hypersensitive. And it's everything you just said. We have to go to a place, funny, dark, whatever your lane, people do gravitate towards their lane. Sometimes I want to veer off, I love comedies. I love watching comedies, Robin Williams and Jim Carrey, I adore them completely and their work, but I want to kind of, there's a project I did where I got casted and my only focus was just acting. I don't say it like that, but usually I'm wearing 7 different hats.
Sure.
So this hat I got to wear was strictly the character. It was dark. And then right afterwards I filmed Little Did She Know. And I felt like it was a good break from it, but it also like really made me become a better actor. So yeah, you have to go to some places, certain things. I'm sure you say, and I didn't mean to make a joke about it, but you were saying I'm very, very prude. And I was just joking with you. But, now that you say that, you probably had to go to a place for Cruel and Unusual Therapy for both that made you very uncomfortable, but it did not by any means come across on camera that Gina is that way. So you say you have some quotes from Hollywood actors or bigger name actors talking about imposter syndrome.
Yeah, it's just because, like what we were saying before, I really believe that when you have a platform, you have to use it properly.
Yeah.
And for me and for a lot of other artists, hearing someone like, Tina Fey is one of my idols. Hearing her speak about imposter syndrome is a momentary relief. And I say momentary because it really doesn't stay with me as long as I wish it would. I go right back to thinking, oh, well, no, you suck, Gina. But then, sometimes I have these screenshots on my phone where I remind myself, okay, no, Tina Fey once said, and I quote, "The beauty of the imposter syndrome is you vacillate between extreme egomania and a complete feeling of, I'm a fraud. Oh, God, they're on to me. I'm a fraud. So you just try to ride the egomania when it comes and enjoy it and then slide through the idea of fraud." And I think, I relate to that entirely. And she's not the only one who's spoken publicly about
that's so crazy that she thinks that way.
Right? Because she's amazing.
Because she, say what you want to say about SNL now, but she was the writer for probably the best 5 to 7 year stretch of that show, maybe even longer.
And she went on to 30 Rock.
And then she went on to then she was like, you know what? I'm going to leave SNL and do 30 Rock. And then I'm going to do, and then in the middle of all this shit, I'm going to write Mean Girls. And then I'm going to do this. And I'm going to do, she's just, people always compare Amy Poehler and her to side by side. This is my humbled opinion. Tina Fey by a mile over Amy Poehler, because I think Tina Fey I don't know if Amy Poehler writes. I don't know if she's a writer, but they just Tina Fey.
I think they complement each other.
Yeah, they do.
Too. Amy seems to be more director.
Okay.
I think she does. You know what?
Because I know she produced Broad City, and she found those two
she
online.
A bunch of episodes of Parks and Rec. She just directed her first new doc about Lucille Ball. Actually.
That's her.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, she did.
Did you say? Did you see Being the Ricardos?
I didn't see that.
I don't really know much. My wife knows a lot about a lot of older movies and stuff because of her parents, and I didn't know that she I really didn't know that Desi is his name. I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, Desi Arnaz.
I didn't know how much he really went to bat for her.
He went to bat for her?
Off screen.
During the communist?
Yes, yeah. During in the sense of he had her back, in sense, of he really was because I feel back then you probably wouldn't have done that for a female co-star.
Well, she was more than a co-star.
Oh yeah, she was. No. Yeah, they were married and they were together.
He'd be a terrible husband if he didn't.
Yeah, that is true. But no, but he really was he really I didn't know much about any of that. I didn't even know that they were married. Before going into the movie, I didn't know that they were married.
She's the reason that Star Trek exists.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, her production company, Desilu, I believe. Watch me be wrong, but I don't think I am. She is the one who really wanted to see that given a shot because they didn't pick it up at first. And Lucille Ball fought for it.
Wow.
So she was actually one of the pioneers of science fiction.
That's great.
Yeah, she was amazing. There's a lot to learn about Lucille
Ball.
No,
I need to learn more, and I hope that documentary will educate me more.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what the documentary itself is about, but anyway, I brought that up because it seemed that Amy was more into direction and Tina was more of the writer. I love both of them. Parks and Rec is one of my absolute favorite shows, and actually I use it as, this sounds weird, but medication. When I'm having my anxiety attacks, if I put on Parks and Rec, it will soothe me enough that I can kind of slow my heart rate.
There's a lot of shows out there that if I'm having a really bad day, I'll pop on and
this is why art is important.
The Office. My go-to movie is The Birdcage.
Oh, The Birdcage is great.
Just from fucking start to finish, it's just so good. Seeing Robin Williams play a gay character, you never thought, I've never thought that would be in his catalog, and he just crushes it. That's a movie that, when I am having a down day, The Office, Friends, I'll go Parks and Rec too. I've either do you like The Office?
I like the earlier seasons of The Office.
It's either Parks and Rec or The Office. No one loves
I
both.
prefer Parks and Rec.
So does my sister.
1000%.
My sister only watched The Office recently, like in its entirety, like maybe within the last 4 or 5 years. She's been like Parks and Rec, like, nah, this is I liked Chris Pratt before he lost all the weight and he became a hunk. She's like, he was,
the season 1 of Parks and Rec, not my favorite.
Okay.
Because they were trying to mimic The Office too much, and they kind of came into their own in season 2.
Yeah.
So from season 2 on,
have you seen The Good Place?
That show. I did watch The Good Place.
Did you like it?
I did. The ending, I didn't like so much. I mean, I cried.
I didn't see the last season. I didn't see the last season, but
so
yeah.
All I will say is that I have my own views on that.
Okay.
So this is me as an artist just getting annoyed that it didn't align with what I wanted
what
it
you
to
wanted,
do.
yeah.
So I was like, darn it.
Like we all do with certain shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I say that because Michael Schur.
It was great.
Yeah, Michael Schur is great. What other quotes are?
Yeah, so I have a few more from other people, and I love Daniel Radcliffe, so this is one of his.
Well, I mean,
he said, "I think the most creative people veer between ambition and anxiety, self-doubt and confidence. I definitely can relate to that. We all go through that. Am I doing the right thing? Is this what I'm meant to be doing?" And
that's fucking Harry Potter saying that.
I know.
Like,
but all of these quotes, and I'll say a few more of them because I think they're just so poignant, and I'm not the only one who feels this way. And it's just great to see someone who reached the heights of fame.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel bad for them because I don't want them to feel this way.
Yeah.
But
but it's nice to know that they're going through that. Have you ever heard Will Smith say he wants to fail early and fail often?
Mm-hmm.
That's probably one of my favorite quotes.
Yeah.
Because I think when we end up, failing, and I don't even know as a personal artist what I've failed at. I've never, I wouldn't say like going to festivals and not winning awards is failing. It does suck. It does sting. I'm not going to be like the cool person who's like, yeah, these don't mean shit to me. They do. They do because it's.
They do and they don't.
Yeah.
We
they
put
do in the
that-
moment. But
exactly.
most award shows are Sunday nights over here. So like maybe on like by Tuesday morning, I'm over it. I'm just honest. So,
but it's true.
But
really
it would be
shouldn't
nice
put
to
that
kind of
weight on
like go home and be like, damn, like my film was impactful at this specific festival because it people voted that it was good at a category. Like, so
the
it was
thing
like
about awards is art is subjective. So for me, what I try to remind myself is if the audience had a good time, that's the award.
Yeah.
The end. Because you're going to have judges who, even if they really like the film, only one can win, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a good judge of whether your film was liked, whether it was good. It's just a matter of, well, who got the 1 point higher?
Yeah. And being on the other side now, finally, for like the last 2 years, the guys at Hang On To Your Shorts and myself, we are like, we really only can pick one out of these films. Like, it's not like we're like laughing behind the scenes, like, haha, this person failed. Like, if we could, we would give an award to all of them. But yes, at the end of the day, unfortunately, there is one award for the specific genre. And it's tough. It is tough to deal with. But you're right. Like, I think I've kind of gotten comfortable and knowing that, like, I left one festival one time. I was nominated for like 5 things.
Wow.
I think it was for that film Spark. I was nominated like for 5 things. Like, our things was nominated for 5 awards, and we took home nothing. And I don't. Michelle and I unfortunately don't talk anymore. We kind of had a falling out, but I remember her being like very angry that we didn't come home with anything. And I think you need that competitive drive. She was a little bit younger than me, so I get like maybe where she was coming from. And, when you're younger, you're more like just like angry, and not angry, but when you're younger than that, you're more like, we deserve it. Like, you're not seeing the full picture, let me say, right?
Yeah.
But people came up, and then the next day, someone on Facebook was like, hey, I watched your film. It was an old classmate of mine. He lost his legs over in Afghanistan. Saving his fucking like platoon, like, and he comes to me and says, this film really resonated with me. I'm like, what? Like, you went through hell and back, and you're telling, and you took time out of your day to do that. Like, to me, and I'm not trying to sound generic or anything, to me, that's more than like an award that's collecting dust over there. Like, let me just be honest, you know?
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people forget that. And, you know, we're approaching Oscar season and all that stuff. I can't stand the Oscars.
Okay.
And that is not to say that I wouldn't be thrilled if I were nominated for one.
Yeah.
And it's that dichotomy of
Why
like, I hate this, but I love it.
Why do you hate him? Because I think a lot of people, I feel like I'm in the minority of like, I'm going to watch it and I'm going to enjoy it. But a lot of people hate what's nominated. Like, they don't think it should be nominated.
The Academy is headed in the wrong direction. They're not progressing with the times. And I think
you're the second person to say that. Steve said the same exact thing.
Well, as a Latina, I feel like I should say that. It's not, you can't live in a world as diverse as we do and not acknowledge it.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know, that's not the only reason that I dislike the Oscars, because in general, I dislike awards because they make artists rank themselves, and it affects us in this way. It's hurting our mental health even more. You know, we're already struggling with all of this stuff, and now I have to say, well I'll never be Meryl Streep because she has 1,000,001 Oscars.
Yeah.
You know, it's not real. None of it is real. Those Oscars are awards. They're given for a reason. Yes, that person deserved to be recognized, but so did 8 other people that year. You know, it's not fair that we're only allowed to choose one because the audiences aren't choosing one.
No.
An audience is going to say, well, I like this movie, this one, and that one. And I watched like 3 more before bed and they make me happy. So I don't care that one of you won this award.
Yeah.
And it bothers me that comedy is never recognized in the great award shows.
I mean, you're telling me Danny McBride has never won a major like television or movie award. Like, he's one of the funniest fucking people out there.
People don't respect comedians because I think a lot of and I'm not. This is a generic statement. They have
to think it's easy, and it's not.
Right. It's not at all. I mean, watch a dramatic actor try to perform in a comedy. They can't always do it.
And how serious were you on set for Cruel and Unusual Therapy 1 and 2? Like, there were serious moments, I'm sure. Granted, yes, it's a lighthearted film. It's funny. Like, the premise of all of it is funny. So you're going to have those moments where you break and you giggle. There's a scene where, the therapist in the dream sequence is on top of you. Of course, you're going to be laughing. Like, of course, just to break the ice. But you can't, I don't want anyone to say, well, it's not, it's very much serious. Like, it is very much like the story, you break down what your story is about. It's about you're open up and you're in therapy. What's more serious than that?
Yeah, there's a lot of vulnerability in both projects, more so in Cruel and Unusual Therapy too. But in general, comedy is funniest when the performer is rooted in truth, right?
Yes.
Which is acting in general. You're supposed to live in truth. But I think the people who fail when they attempt comedy are the people who are going for the laugh. You can't go for the laugh.
Yeah.
You have to live in the reality of the moment.
Yeah.
And if that is a funny circumstance, then people will laugh. But you can't, if you're not honest with yourself and you're playing it as though, well, this isn't really happening, so I'm just going to try to make a joke of it. That's not funny because everybody knows that you're just clawing for the laugh.
Exactly. Like, the film I'm trying to make this year is a man getting his hoodie back from his ex-girlfriend. I mean, it's funny, but I've lived that.
Yep.
I'm trying to get my clothes back, and then him and his buddies are hanging, and they're like, well, how long have you been broken up? And like, what's the standard? Like, oh, you've been broken up a month? That's hers now. And it's I try to aim a very Seinfeld, very back and forth-esque conversation. He's like, fuck, I'm going to go get it. But like, so you take something that is, like you said, it's rooted in its reality and truth. All of us have needed to get something back from an ex. But what is the grace period? What is the grace period really? Yeah. So, and
it's living truthfully under imaginary circumstances,
exactly.
Right? That's the technical definition of acting, which I don't think a lot of people who aren't actors or who aren't familiar with the field would assume. They think, well, you're faking it. That's what you do. You pretend for a living. And yes, technically it's pretending. Yeah. But to that character, everything is real.
Yeah, no. It's funny that it's not funny. It is a shame that comedy's not
respected.
By like, and you know what? When you talk with people and you're just like bullshit with other artists, and you start talking about comedies or movies, and a comedy gets brought up, and then people laugh from the idea. Like, you know, some of my fondest memories is like my parents showing me like Mel Brooks's catalog, right?
Love Mel Brooks.
I never watched. To work with him. I never watched Moonstruck.
Okay.
And my mom's like, "Nah, you need to sit down." And like, Nicolas Cage wasn't always a fucking joke, or like, you know, Cher is actually really talented. Is she bothering you?
No.
Okay.
I'm just like I'm playing footsie with her with the dog under the table.
But no, so that's what I'm saying. Like, most of my favorite like memories are like bullshitting about like Seinfeld, 30 Rock, Community. You know, Parks
Ted
and
Lasso.
Rec. Ted Lasso.
Shout out to Ted Lasso. Which actually, fun anecdote, Brett Goldstein and Toheeb Jimo, who are actors on that show, which I love, were actually integral in getting Cruel and Unusual Therapy 2 made, in the sense that I had written like this fan letter to Ted Lasso. It was like an open letter on Instagram, and both of them actually commented on it. And
holy shit!
In the letter, I had said like, I hope that I can write my script as well one day, and they both gave. I mean, it was a brief line, but they were basically supporting me and encouraging me to continue writing.
That's fucking amazing.
And I was like, okay, I guess I'll do it. You know,
that's amazing.
So I should say that, because we kind of lost track before, but how I eventually ended up getting back to that script after all of those terrible notes that I got had a lot to do with these two guys who I really respect and admire.
And Brett Goldstein's a writer on the show.
Yeah, he's a writer and an actor, and he's brilliant. Both of them are brilliant.
It's kind of like how Phyllis Smith from The Office. I think she was just like a writer-producer on the show, or like Mindy Kaling. And they used them, and Mindy Kaling has written some of the best episodes from The Office. Like, she is responsible for that.
She's responsible for Never Have I Ever, which I love. Yep. That's another one of my happy shows.
But no, that's great.
Ted Lasso, art and comedy, which is great.
Ted Lasso, and like, my wife wanted to watch it because she has like a just weird crush on Jason Sudeikis.
Yes, also.
I don't see it, but
well,
you know,
shame on you. But
he's dating a 24-year-old after Olivia Wilde, so people see it.
Yeah,
but
anyway, I don't know who he's dating, but I love him too. So.
No, I know. But
if they ever break up, hello.
Yeah, but he's funny. We're the Millers is one of my favorite fucking movies. He's so good. And, you know, I was talking about this with another friend of mine. You're seeing a lot of these shows like Ozark, where Jason Bateman's the star and the producer, Mayor of Easttown, where Kate Winslet is the star and producer, Ted Lasso, where, you know, Jason Sudeikis is the writer, star, one of the producers. You know, Bill Lawrence is one of the producers too. Scrubs is one of my all-time favorite shows. I'm going to give that a chance. That was why I watched Ted Lasso, because of Jason Sudeikis and Bill Lawrence. After 2 seasons of Ted Lasso, you know, I am now like, I literally love every character minus Nate. But I love every character, and I love how just, like my wife says after every episode or whatever.
Oh, wait, Rupert. Fuck Rupert too. Sorry.
Yes. Rupert's a piece of shit. It makes you, like, I don't ever watch like, it's hard for me. I watch Seinfeld and Friends because it's nostalgia and it makes me feel good. But Ted Lasso, and same with Scrubs, but those shows are almost damn near 20, 30 years old. Yeah. Ted Lasso, like The Office, like it's more like haha laughing at. Like Ted Lasso, what I'm trying to get at is it makes me, like, I could laugh, I could cry, I could get angry. Like when he had his after they beat the one team and he had his anxiety attack. And then he signed the divorce papers, and that song "Strange" is playing. Like, I literally I sat on that chair and I was like this, with like, didn't want Jess to see me tear up because it was very like emotional, because that's when, you know, Brett Goldstein and Juno Temple's characters were like, just fucking kiss already, you know, like, you just, you know, it's like that. So it just and I'm getting goosebumps talking because it just brings out so much different emotion, and I just love how goofy Ted Lasso is. The character. I just love how, like, he is so lovable. So when, you know, the character Nate is kind of ripping into him, is like, dude, like, what? You know, like, but no, it was just very, that's such a good fucking show. And it's breaking a lot of, in my opinion, and maybe there's other shows you can please, like, inform me on, breaking certain barriers of, like, you know, obviously, they had a therapist in the second season. then Ted Lasso went to therapy, and you found out that his dad died.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Jamie Tart dealing with father issues, and Roy Kent comes over and hugs him. The guy that fucking they hated each other.
Yeah.
He goes over and and I was like,
I know. They're tackling toxic masculinity in a way that is palatable.
And that's not like, it's, to me, it's not really shoving it down your throat.
No. And it's just part of the entertainment. And I love it. And I think that it's something that more men need to see, especially younger men growing up. We should be recognizing that toxic masculinity is an issue.
Yeah.
Not that masculinity itself is an issue, specifically toxic masculinity. And there is a difference.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think toxic masculinity really, like I mentioned earlier in the episode, I'm not comfortable like crying in front of men. I think it's because of just like the men aren't supposed to cry, but then I'm a big basketball fan, and half these players when Kobe Bryant passed, half these players were crying on camera, or even like when they win a championship, they're crying. But that's okay to do it, but it's not okay to cry. Like if you're just like, bro, like, yeah, I am a millionaire. I am this. I get to play the sport I love. I get to pay, but like maybe they want to love, but maybe they want love. Maybe they're not. They don't have someone. Not for nothing. Maybe they're closeted and they can't come out. And because you've seen athletes who come out recently and they're like that Michael Sam, I don't want to see him kissing another guy on camera. One NFL player, Carl Nassib, I don't know if you heard it this season, defensive end. And that means you were big, you're tall. Yeah. He came out as gay. And he was...
I'm so proud of those people who have
no one gave a shit in the sense of like, no hate came his... I'm sure hate came his way on social media.
Yeah.
But in the mass media, like Michael Sam was really good back in the day. He gets drafted. He kisses his boyfriend on camera. Everyone is like, I didn't need to see that. I love my dad. I love my dad. My dad, 70 years old. He'll tell you this to your face. So it's not. I'm not really I'm not really blowing out a secret here. He is like, I still get uncomfortable watching two men kiss. I was like, well, what about two women? And obviously he'll make a stupid ass joke. He's like, no, but for real, even like sometimes two women. It's just in my head that's not right. He's like, but it's because I was not raised with it.
Right. Representation matters.
He's being very, you may be like, oh God, what kind of person? But to be honest with you, he's being fucking honest.
He's self-aware.
He's not saying, ugh, oh my God. Like he's just saying it is uncomfortable. He's not making a big fucking scene. And he told me all the time, he's like, Chris, if you were gay, I know you would have a really hard life, but I don't give a shit if you like someone who's purple, yellow, I just want you to be happy. That's very important.
Yeah.
Very, very important. But yeah, I know I cut you off. Do you want to read like any more quotes before we wrap up? Because I think the two you read so far were just great.
I'll end with Amy Poehler so that we start with Tina and we end with Amy. She said, you will never climb career mountain and get to the top and shout, I made it. You'll rarely feel done or complete or even successful. Most people I know struggle with that complicated soup of feeling slighted on one hand and like a total fraud on the other. And that, I think, is actually a perfect way to end, because that's how I feel constantly. Sometimes you have those moments of, man, I did a great job on this film and it didn't win an award. How dare they? And then 5 seconds later, it's like, oh my God, I suck so much. Of course it didn't win an award. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I think we, and I don't want to, I can't speak for you per se, but I see other filmmakers like working together. I see people win awards. I see people accomplishing stuff through COVID. And it's like, why are they not asking me to work with them? Or like, what is wrong with me? Like, oh my God, I'm working 9 to 5. I can't come home and I just can't write. Like, oh my God, like I'm fucking worthless. I'm this, I'm that. But you need to have a really good, healthy balance. I mentioned earlier about my stepdad having a stroke, and it took a lot out of me. That took a lot out of me. I told my sister I haven't really been able to create, and she's like, holy shit, me too. Because my mind is now preoccupied with a lot of other stuff. So that empty stuff in my brain where it wasn't preoccupied with like heavy shit, that's probably where I was able to like write. But now the next thing I write, is it going to be about, having to deal with when a parent has an unexpected tragic health accident. Like it might, because that's now what I'm living in, and like I'm seeing it from a different perspective, you know. But I feel that way too, like where you're like that 1 ounce of doubt, and that's crazy that it's just crazy that Amy Poehler, like, you know, I think that's the thing. Like we think these celebrities don't ever, like once they like are on shows or they're on movies or you know their net worth, they're like, oh wow, like man, they got it made. Like they can't feel the way they feel. But at the end of the day, everyone's a fucking human being, and humans feel very, very much, right? So, I mean, it's great, like you said earlier, you don't want them going through this, but it is great to know that, like, Harry Potter, you know, Amy Poehler, who was the first? Tina Fey. Like, the titans in their respective, like, genre and industry are feeling this way, then that should give you a sense of, like, well, then I can feel this way, too.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, we had a great conversation. I think this is the longest episode yet, and I'm very happy that you were just very open and honest. I appreciate that. That's what I want. You know, it's what I've been gearing towards and aiming towards. So I really appreciate you like coming here, recording, and kind of letting people know, get to know you a little bit.
My pleasure.
And
I'm happy to talk about mental health any day.
Thank you, and hopefully you'll be on for another episode down the road for sure, because this was a lot of fun. And yeah, if you're in New Jersey and you want to go to a film festival, Hang On to Your Shorts Film Festival, you'll be able to see Gina's film, Cruel and Unusual Therapy 2. Is there anything else you'd like to plug, whether you know your social media, your festival social media? The floor is yours.
Oh, gosh. You can follow... I feel like I'm on the spot. No. Westfield International Film Festival. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. My personal is _that_Gina, because I do share a name with Jane the Virgin.
Yes.
So I'm not her. And sorry to everyone who just listened to this episode thinking that's who you were listening to. Yep. Very sorry. And then I am also actually branching into talent management and production. So if you want to follow that, it's Rose and Pearl ENT.
Cool.
Stands for Rose and Pearl Entertainment.
Thank you very much, Gina. And can't wait to have you on again.
Thank you so much.
Once again, this is Where Is My Mind, a podcast about mental health and the arts. I'm host and producer of the podcast, Christopher Orangeo. All episodes will be available on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Radio Public, and Amazon Music. Once again, this is Chris Orangeo, and thank you for supporting.